Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Janashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Nama Gurava Bishtam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shirupa Patanugam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwa Gurun Shah Divyad Bhagavad Premno Ebija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchanabananam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Mandetam Shubaram Mareka Sharanam Nyashishwara Sridharam Vanshakopatarubyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Hidden Treasure, the Sweet Absolute, with translation and commentary by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj, and translation into English by Sri Swarupananda Prabhu. And this is chapter 5. Karma-sannyasa-yoga, the path of renunciation of action, and text number 18. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane gavihastini shunichaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshina. The enlightened souls see transcendence within all living beings, whether the humble and learned Brahmin, the cow, the elephant, the dog, or the dog-eater. Therefore, they are to be known as Pandit, men of true wisdom. So the enlightened souls are not making distinctions based on bodily designations, but rather they're seeing all living entities as spirit souls, part and parcel of the Supreme. Or as Mahaprabhu has explained, Jiva Swarup Oi Krishna Nitya Das, that the Jiva soul, which is in every living every living being, is part and parcel of the Lord of Krishna, and is also constitutionally Krishna's eternal servant. So that is how the enlightened souls see all living entities. Ihaivatar jita sargo yesham samye stitam mana nirdosham isamam brahma tasmad brahmanite stita. Those whose minds are equiposed in Brahman have conquered the cycle of birth and death while living within this world. By their perfect spiritual equanimity, they are always situated in transcendence. So the enlightened persons, they have conquered birth and death because they are situated on the spiritual platform. And when they leave this material platform, they're able to go again to a spiritual destination, whether it's as it's stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yads jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabhyate. The Lord is known as Brahman, as Paramatma, Brahman by the impersonalists, Paramatma by the yogis, and Bhagavan by the devotees. Now, pravrishyet priyam prapya nodvidyet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asammudho brahmavid brahmani stita. Absorbed in transcendence, endowed with steady intelligence, and free from the delusion of thinking of the body and associated objects as me and mine, the knower of the Absolute is neither happy when pleasant things come his way, nor sad when unpleasant things come his way. So absorbed in transcendence, endowed with steady intelligence, and free from the delusion of thinking of the body and associated objects as me and mine, the knower of the Absolute is neither happy when pleasant things come his way, nor sad when unpleasant things come his way. So those who are absorbed on the spiritual plane or in spiritual consciousness, that are not identified with this body as me or I, and the possessions in relationship to the body as being mine. Rather, they're always seeing things through the eyes of devotion. They're seeing every action, every word, every activity, every thought as being in relationship to the Lord. So that is true transcendence. Bhaya sparshesh vasaktatma vindati atmani yat sukham sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Bhaya sparshesh vasaktatma vindati atmani yat sukham sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Detaching his mind from external pleasures, such a knower of the absolute truth tastes the inner joy of self-realization. Then, absorbing himself in meditation on the absolute, he experiences inexhaustible bliss. Detaching his mind from external pleasures, such a knower of the absolute truth tastes the inner joy of self-realization. Then, absorbing himself in meditation on the Absolute, he experiences inexhaustible bliss. So there's, as we've always heard through the eyes of Bhagavad Gita, there are those persons who are absorbed in the happiness of this material world, and they're asleep in the matter of self-realization. So what is daytime for them is nighttime for the realized soul. That is, their happiness is in this material world, and that is like nighttime to those who are interested in spiritual realization. And what is spiritual realization? The daytime of the realized souls is like nighttime for the materialistic persons. So, and then the person who is absorbed in self-realization experiences inexhaustible bliss, because that's the nature of the soul. The soul is Satchidananda, and not only Satchidananda, but Vigraha, Satchidananda Vigraha. See, the soul is eternally conscious and in its state of realization, experiencing inexhaustible bliss. And Vigraha is a person having form. So now we'll go on to 22. Yei samsparsha jaboga dukkha yonaya evate adyanta vanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. O son of Kunti, the pleasures that arise from the contact of the senses with their objects are the cause of unhappiness, as they are transient. The wise never delight in such pleasures. O son of Kunti, the pleasures that arise from the contact of the senses with their objects are the cause of unhappiness, as they are transient. The wise never delight in such pleasures. And if we know that we are eternal persons, then even so-called happiness, which one finds in this world, is fleeting. It's not going to last, and that's never going to really satisfy us, because as we are eternally conscious persons, we are looking for happiness on a different plane, or at least we should be looking for happiness on a different plane, and that's the divine plane. Because Krishna, he has his eternal abode, his eternal relationship with the devotees, his eternal relationship with the realized souls, and they are always enjoying on that platform. And that platform can descend to us through the mercy of the Vaishnavas, through the mercy of the spiritual master, through the mercy of the Lord, through the mercy of the scriptures. That realization can descend to us. And that's, in that way, we can come to we can be engrossed on the spiritual platform and have an eternal relationship with the Lord. And in that relationship, everyone is happy. That's the nature of the spiritual world. So we're looking towards that plane rather than looking for some temporary happiness in this world. We're looking more towards the happiness which is coming from our real identity as an eternal servant of Krishna. And if we can have a relationship with the Lord on that plane, we'll be eternally happy, because everyone's looking for happiness. But what is the highest form of happiness? We can say the highest form of happiness is really what we call love. Love. But the love that we experience in this world, and certainly one gets happiness from relationship of lovers, or with one's wife, or with one's family, or one's children. There's certainly happiness in that. But that's like a reflection of the real happiness of the spiritual world. And we say the form of unlimited happiness and unlimited love, we'll say that's prema. The love that we know in this world, there's certainly some happiness in those loving relationships that we experience in this world. But that's like a spark. And the unlimited fire is in relationship with the Lord, with his devotees. And the Lord, we are eternal persons, and we can experience unending happiness on that plane. So then, Shaknoti haiva yash sodhum praksharyera vimokshanat kama krodod bhavam vegam sayukta sasukhi nara shaknotaiva yash shodhum praksharyera vimokshanat kama krodod bhavam vegam sayukta sasukhi nara. Know that one who, before leaving the body, utilizes the opportunity of this life to check the impulses of desire and anger, he is a yogi who knows true happiness. Know that one who, before leaving the body, utilizes the opportunity of this life to check the impulses of desire and anger, he is a yogi who knows true happiness. So because we have desire in this world, desire for so many things, we have desires in this world, and ultimately you can say that desire is experienced in the form of calm, of lust. But when we're not able to satisfy those desires, then anger is the result. When one has, just like when one has a desire to enjoy something, and something checks one's ability, or one's getting the object of one's senses, then naturally one becomes frustrated. One becomes angry. First comes anger, then comes forgetfulness, then one forgets who he or she is, and then one ultimately falls into illusion. Desire and anger. But anger starts with unfulfilled desire. Know that one who, before leaving the body, utilizes the opportunity of this life to check the impulses of desire and anger, he is a yogi who knows true happiness. And it's just a simple matter, sounds simple anyway, of understanding that everything is meant for Krishna's happiness, for Krishna's enjoyment, for Krishna's pleasure. And I'm not a stone, I'm not an inert object. If I have a relationship with Krishna, when Krishna's enjoying, then also we're enjoying with Krishna on that divine plane. It's not that we are just sacrificing everything. Of course, in one sense we are, but therefore we talk about yukta vairagya, that we're not renouncing all activities, but we're renouncing, we're utilizing everything in Krishna's service and Krishna's satisfaction. And naturally we find that Krishna is enjoying with his devotees. He's not enjoying alone. He's not some detached person. He has an eternal, ongoing relationship with all his devotees. And that yonta sukontar aramas tatantar jyotir evaya sayogi brahmanirvanam brahmabhuto digachati. Such a yogi sees the self within and delights in the bliss of the self within. Attaining the transcendental state, he attains liberation from matter and entry into the abode of Brahman. Such a yogi sees the self within and delights in the bliss of the self within. Attaining the transcendental state, he attains liberation from matter and entry into the abode of Brahman. So we say that Krishna, he's Param Brahman. He's the Supreme Brahman. So the devotee becomes attached to Krishna, and ultimately he is relating with Krishna on that divine plane, that plane of the supreme plane. As we've heard, Brahmabhuta prashanatmana shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. On that Brahman platform, that's the platform of which bhakti begins. But because bhakti is not an activity of this world, we can engage in bhakti in this world, but bhakti is a divine activity, bhakti yoga. All the different forms of yoga are ultimately leading to bhakti yoga, because whether it's karma yoga or whether it's jnana yoga, they ultimately bring you into a relationship with Krishna, and that is bhakti. So in karma yoga, one's giving up the fruits of one's activities. And in Jnana Yoga, or the path of knowledge, as it's explained, is Brahma bahunam janmanamante jnanavam mam prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sadurlava. One who has come to the conclusion of knowledge. Bahunam janmanamante, after many, many births, Bahunam janmanamante gyanavam mam prapadyate. One who is complete in knowledge, or come to the full realization of knowledge, gyanavam mam prapadyante, that person surrenders and understands Vasudeva sarvamiti. That Vasudeva, or Krishna, is everything. Samahatma sadurlabha. That is the position of what is called a Mahatma, a great soul. So both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, they ultimately lead to Bhakti Yoga, because once one is understood that Krishna is the source of everything, that I have an eternal relationship of Krishna, then naturally one will begin to become absorbed in one's relationship with Krishna. If you come to the point of understanding that Krishna is the source of everything, and Krishna is my only my only shelter, and Krishna is my only goal, then when you are on that understanding, then naturally you'll engage in satisfying Krishna, because you'll have achieved a loving relationship with Krishna. When there is love, one naturally will serve the object, the beloved person, one who is attracting us. The name Krishna means who's attracting everyone. We'll naturally want to serve that person in our loving relationship. Labante Brahma Nirvanam Rishaya Shina Kalmasha Shina Dvaidha Yatatmana Sarvabhuta Hite Rata. Sinless, free from doubt, self-controlled, and dedicated to the welfare of all living beings, the seers of truth attain such liberation. Sinless, free from doubt, self-controlled, and dedicated to the welfare of all living beings, the seers of truth attain such liberation. And I would say we are really, truly dedicated to the welfare of all living beings, because there may be so many groups that are trying to satisfy the needs of humanity, feed and give shelter to the poor, etc. I remember though Srila Prabhupada said, there will always be a class of men living by the footpath. So ultimately, you cannot relieve the material karma of everyone. You cannot. Some persons have wanted to do so, like Vasudeva Datta, we've heard, where he asked Mahaprabhu, please transfer the karma of all living entities onto me so that they can gain eternal spiritual life. And Mahaprabhu responded to Vasudeva Datta. He said, it's not necessary to transfer all the karma to you. He said, just by the presence of one pure devotee, he can give relief to everyone. He can liberate a whole universe. And for instance, there are groups feeding people. What do they feed them? They don't have any idea what is the proper food, especially if one understands I'm a spirit soul. What will be my nutrition? My food will be prasadam, the Lord's mercy. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, if you offer to me a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water with love and devotion, I will accept that. Otherwise, if one is eating, we'll say pop or sin with every mouthful. So someone's feeding poor people. Maybe they can satisfy their hunger temporarily, but we ultimately don't want to just be feeding people. We want to be giving them prasadam. That will satisfy their needs and at the same time give them spiritual benefit by taking Krishna prasadam. So we're ultimately looking towards the welfare of all living beings. And how are we doing that? Because we're also preaching. We're also trying to give Krishna consciousness to others. And that will be real benefit. So sinless, free from doubt, self-controlled, and dedicated to the welfare of all living beings, the seers of truth attain such liberation. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Persons of the renounced order who have controlled their thoughts, who are free from desire and anger, and who have achieved knowledge of the nature of the soul, are liberated whether they live or die. Persons of the renounced order who have controlled their thoughts, who are free from desire and anger, and who have achieved knowledge of the nature of the soul, are liberated whether they live or die. So why are we mentioning persons of the renounced order? Well, this chapter is called The Path of Renunciation of Action. So it is talking about renunciation. But as I mentioned previously, we're interested in yukta vairagya, not karma vairagya. Karma vairagya, there are people who present themselves as renounced. For instance, we've seen these kinds of renounced persons. They don't even cut their fingernails. They don't cut their hair. But that is a karma sannyas. We're not interested in that. We're understanding that what is real renunciation is to utilize one's words in the service of the Lord, one's actions in the service of the Lord, words, actions, thoughts, everything that one has is to be utilized in the service of the Lord. That is the real renunciation. The idea of giving up things, that so-called form of renunciation, that is incomplete because it still maintains the idea that I'm the enjoyer, but now I'm giving up my enjoyment. I'm renouncing all these things. They no longer belong to me. But they never belonged to me in the first place. Everything that exists is for the service of the Lord. My thoughts, my words, my actions, everything is meant to be used in the service of the Lord. So persons of the renounced order who have controlled their thoughts, who are free from desire and anger, and who have achieved knowledge of the nature of the soul are liberated, whether they live or die. So whether one is living in this material world or not, one can be free from this sense of possession. One can become persons of the renounced order who have controlled their thoughts, who are free from desire and anger, and who have achieved knowledge of the nature of the soul are liberated whether they live or die, whether they're in this world or whether they go to another place or to the spiritual world. They're always understand themselves as eternal servants of the Lord. Bhaktaram yagya tapasam. Let's see. No, I'm 28.
27.
I just did 26, so I'm on 27. Sparshan kritva bahir bhayams chakshus chaivantare bruvo pranapano samo kritva nashabhyantara charino. Okay, and then 28 also, because yatendriya mano buddhir munir moksha parayana vigate cha maya krodo yasada mukta evasa sparshan kritva bahir bhayams chakshus chaivantare bruvo pranapano samo kritva nashabhyantara charino yatendriya mano buddhir munir moksha parayana vigate cha maya krodo yasada mukta evasa. Expelling from the mind all the external sense objects of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, centering the concentration and stabilizing the incoming and outgoing breath, subjugating the senses, mind, and intelligence, dedicating himself to liberation, his desire, fear, and anger gone, such a sage is ever liberated. Expelling from the mind all the external sense objects of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, centering the concentration and stabilizing the incoming and outgoing breath, subjugating the senses, mind, and intelligence, dedicating himself to liberation, his desire, fear, and anger gone, such a sage is ever liberated. So this verse will specifically remind us or mention impersonal realism, the path of yoga, where one is able to offer the outgoing breath into the ingoing breath. And in other words, one is, by controlling one's senses and mind and breath and everything, able to attain a stage of balance. But we're not, per se, we're not practicing this path. Here, expelling from the mind all the external sense objects of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, centering the concentration, and stabilizing incoming and outgoing breath, subjugating the senses, mind, and intelligence, dedicating oneself to liberation, his desire, fear, and anger gone. Such a sage is ever liberated. So this is the path of yoga, of controlling all the senses, controlling the breathing in terms of pranayama, and working in this way. But that is not the path that we're following. Rather, we're following the path of bhakti. We're not depending on our own strength or on our own renunciation, on our own ability, but rather we're considering ourselves servants of the Lord, and we're looking to the Lord for His guidance and for His mercy. But this path is, Krishna ultimately gives full knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita, so this may be applicable to those who are following the path of elevation by their own control of senses, control of breathing, and all these other forms. Bhuktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam gyatvam mam shantim richati. Bhuktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam gyatvam mam shantim richati. I'm the enjoyer and objective of the sacrifices performed by persons of action, and of the austerities performed by persons of knowledge. I'm Narayan, the indwelling monitor of all planes of life, the worshipable Supreme Personality who awards liberation. I'm Krishna, the well-wisher of all, and the dear friend of the devotees. One who knows me thus attains the bliss of knowing his own original divine identity. Bhuktaram yagyatapasam. I'm the enjoyer and objective of the sacrifices performed by persons of action. So Bhuktaram, I'm the enjoyer of all yagya, sacrifices, and tapasam, and austerities, and of the austerities performed by persons of knowledge. Then Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, I'm the Lord of all living beings, Suridam Sarvabhutanam. I'm Krishna, the well-wisher of all, and the dear friend of the devotees. That's Suridam Sarvabhutanam, and Gyatvam Mam Shantin Richati. One who knows this, one who knows me thus attains the bliss of knowing his own original divine identity. Actually, Prabhupada published a booklet called, it was based on this verse. Bhuktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam gyatvam man shanti richati. It was called the Peace Formula. And the ideas was, if you could come to understand that Krishna, He's Bhuktaram Yagyatapasam. All your sacrifices, all your austerities are meant to satisfy Krishna. And why? Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, because He's the Lord of everyone. He's the Lord of all worlds, of all persons. And Suridam Sarvabhutanam. Suridam means He's the best friend of all living entities. Gyatvam Mam Shantim Richati. One who knows this. Gyatvam, one who knows this about me, Shantim Richati. Shantim means peace, attains peace. So one who can understand that Krishna is the enjoyer of all sacrifices and all one's austerities, And he's the Lord of all living persons and of all worlds. And he's not only that, he's everyone's best friend, Suridam Sarvabhutanam. Knowing this, one attains real peace. So I am the enjoyer and objective of the sacrifices performed by persons of action and of the austerities performed by persons of knowledge. I'm Narayan, the indwelling monitor of all planes of life, the worshipable Supreme Personality who awards liberation. I'm Krishna, the well-wisher of all and the dear friend of the devotees. One who knows me thus attains the bliss of knowing his own original divine identity. Okay. Iti Shri Mahabharate Shata Sahasriyam Samhitayam Vayasakyam Bhishma Parvani Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma-sannyasa-yoga Nama Panchamodhyaya. End of chapter 5, the path of renunciation of action, from the conversation of Sri Krishna and Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the yoga scripture of transcendental knowledge in Bhishma Parva of Sri Mahabharata, the holy scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses. And now, sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama
Jadavaya Madhavaya Teshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shimadhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jai Te Vignana Shavishta Puran Jai Gosai Jar Muri Taradas Dasabar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Pader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abhilas Jai Gosai Jabe Brate Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Ananda Raja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majahiyaman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratammodas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhariju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Dara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Dara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuka Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda ki jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shri Navadip Dham ki jai, Shri Dham Mayapur ki jai, Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Koladvip ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai, Ganga Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan, Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Mahaprabhu's auspicious arrival in Panihati ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Vishnu Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj.